Hello, everybody, and thank you for attending our Made Easy webinar series. So today our topic is ERP Made Easy, Purchasing and Inventory, and we'll be covering the functionality around purchasing and inventory management with ERP Cannabis. My name is Joel Halverson, and I'll be hosting the webinar today. I am the lead architect for the ERP Cannabis solution, and you can see that my contact information has been provided, so please feel free to contact me following the webinar if you have any specific questions or would like to set up a time to review ERP Cannabis functionality in more detail. Also, if during the webinar you have a question, we will have time for a question and answer period at the end of the webinar after the demo. So please submit your questions in the lower right corner of your WebEx screen. You should see a Q&A section, and if you click on that, you will have the ability to submit a question, which we can then review, as I said, at the end of our demo today. All right, so we'll have Ben leading us through the demo, and Jake is helping us out with the presentation. So Jake, if we could move on to the next slide. So ERP Cannabis is a cloud-based seed-to-sale true ERP system, and as you can see, based upon the diagram, that it includes functionality that has been configured specifically for the cannabis industry. So starting out with financials and inventory management and procurement at the core. So all of that being integrated and then being able to tie into the financials, inventory management, procurement module, everything that may be happening on the production side. And then specifically for the cannabis industry, cultivation management. So whether you are growing product or whether you're producing product or doing both, we have capabilities and functionalities that have been integrated with ERP Cannabis to be able to address all of that functionality that is specific for the industry. So on the front end, you can also see that we have a point of sale module along with customer management that for retail operations, the dispensary operations, being able to, of course, track everything that's happening in terms of sales and activities within the dispensary, but also tracking inventory and pricing and all of your revenue that's coming in and feeding that back to the core financial module as well. In addition, we have an HR payroll time entry module so that we're able to set up and manage all of your employees and able to provide payroll services so that through ERP Cannabis, we can directly track time for hourly employees or pay rates for salaried employees and all of the other benefit information that's applicable to payroll, taxes, everything else, being able to directly manage the entire process within ERP Cannabis, which is a unique feature and capability of ERP Cannabis. All of this is integrated to the appropriate track and trace system. So track and trace is not a specific module within ERP Cannabis, but it is an interface so that depending upon where you are located, we are able to integrate all of the activity from ERP Cannabis. The relevant information is then interfaced directly to Metric or whatever other type of state tracking system may be required. And as you can see on the side, we've really focused on developing a suite in a box, so really making it as simple and as straightforward as possible to set up and utilize the capabilities and functionality of ERP Cannabis. It's also modular, so built for growth, so that you can start out with your high priority modules and then grow from there, so that as your business grows, your ERP investment and ERP functionality can grow with you. Analytics are a part of the complete solution, so that depending upon what it is that you may be needing in terms of analysis and reporting, we're able to provide that with tools that are incorporated within the entire solution from beginning to end. We also have an emphasis on continuous innovation, and that's primarily due to the partnership that we have with SAP. So from an ERP perspective, our proven ERP solution has been utilized worldwide for more than 40 years. So certainly a well-proven solution that can be utilized in the cannabis industry specifically based upon our formulation and streamlining of ERP Cannabis to make that a solid investment with, again, innovation and being able to expand the functionality over time. Mobility is also an important element, so that as you are working, ERP Cannabis can go with you and you're able to access either transactions or reporting, whatever might be needed through the appropriate mobile device that you may be using. All right, next slide, Jake. So in terms of our solution partners, as I mentioned previously, our core ERP software provider and partner is SAP. And as I had mentioned, they've been around for many years and have provided ERP solutions to hundreds of thousands of customers worldwide. In addition, Quintel Management Consulting is a certified partner of SAP and is our implementation partner. Quintel has completed many ERP implementations for the many different industries, but we have worked with, or Quintel has worked with small to large customers, and primarily in the industries that are listed: energy, utilities, public sector, and of course now cannabis and other manufacturing type of applications. Bimzer is our partner for what we call forms, workflow, and document management. So their focus is on developing solutions that simplify business processes. And as I had mentioned previously, our focus in developing ERP Cannabis has been to develop a solution that's simplified and standardized, and the capabilities that we have been able to leverage from our partnership with Bimzer has greatly expanded our ability to do just that. And then we've also partnered with Hotbox ERP to provide the cannabis-specific functionality, primarily for the cultivation or the grow module, as well as the point-of-sale solution. So those being two cannabis-specific modules where their expertise has been great help, and we have integrated directly in the overall solution. All right, next slide. So for today, we'll be talking about purchasing and inventory management. So Ben will be taking us through the demonstration and starting out initially with the request for purchasing inventory. So being able to utilize the purchase request form and having that circulated and submitted for approval prior to actually then executing or processing the purchase request. So that is step 2, where we would review and approve purchase requests, whoever is responsible for that, be able to then submit the purchase order to the vendor, and then the vendor being able to process and ship, so that we then would record the receipt of what we have purchased directly into inventory. So once we have different materials in our inventory system, whether they're products, whether they're raw materials, whether they're semi-finished, whether they're packaging, whatever type of materials that we may have in inventory, they need to be managed. So we'll demo how to issue out of inventory, transfer inventory, plan inventory based upon automatic reorder points that have been set up for each of the inventory items and then utilize inventory in production and other operations. So being able to issue directly to the processes that are utilizing what it is that we have purchased within inventory. So, and then of course we're also purchasing product that needs to be in an inventory and may be sold through the dispensary and managed through the point of sale system. So when we're talking about inventory, we're talking about all those different types of inventory that would be managed depending upon the focus of your particular business. And then reporting, so being able to look at inventory as well as purchasing reports, and through that, the standard reports that we have set up, which we will demonstrate, be able to show what it is that you can do with the standard reports that are set up and available within ERP Cannabis. So with that, I will turn it over to Ben, who will go through the demonstration, starting out with purchasing, and inventory will follow, and then end up with, well, he'll be demoing some various reports throughout, but then ending up with some of the summary type of reports that are available. So go ahead, Ben.
Right. Thanks, Joel. And as Joel mentioned, I'll be starting out by showing a simple purchasing process demo through ERP Cannabis, and I am part of the purchasing and inventory team for ERP Cannabis. And so I'll begin by going through logging into the ERP Cannabis Launchpad with a user ID and a password. And here that the ERP Cannabis Launchpad appears with various applications and reports that are purchasing and inventory specific for this particular user. And here I'll select the purchasing applications tile, where we have our purchasing and inventory applications, or forms that we call them. Now go to ERPC forms and purchasing. Now select purchase request. And the purchase request initiates the purchasing process in ERP Cannabis. And since we are purchasing an inventory item, I'll select the standard and inventory purchase request. And here the create purchase request screen will appear, and I'll enter the requester's name. I'll select the company where this purchase belongs to. And if I had a quotation or additional documentation for the purchase request, I can attach that document here. And I can also enter additional details for the purchase request in the comments section, where I can say that this is fertilizer needed for cultivation. So since we're purchasing inventory items, I'll select the Add button under the Inventory Items table, where I can enter details for the inventory item that we plan to purchase. I'll select the facility where this material will be stored within the company, so facility 1000. And then the material, I'll select on the drop-down, and this is our material master records that are in the system, and this is all live data that has been created for material masters. And in the search filter area, I can enter the material ID that I want to purchase. So in this case, I want to purchase fertilizer gel. And I can enter the quantity that I want to purchase and the unit of measure that I'm purchasing in. So in this case, milliliters, the price per unit, 15 cents, and then the vendor or supplier that I'm purchasing the material from. I can select the arrows at the bottom to review multiple records for vendor master records that are in the system. and then I'll select the vendor that I'm purchasing from. I can select the estimated delivery date by selecting on the calendar. And you'll see the net price is updated based on the quantity and price per unit entered. When I'm done entering the details of the inventory item that I plan to purchase, I'll select the OK button. And then I'll go up top and select the Send button. So the purchase request is under workflow management. So it was sent to an approver to review and was notified to review the document. And if the document looks good, then they'll approve the purchase request to be submitted into the system. So you can see below, I can review the flow scheme of the approved purchase request where it was sent and notified to the approver. And when they approved it, it was sent to SAP in the backend system. And then I can also review the flow of history where I can see the user that submitted the purchase request and the user that approved the purchase request. If I go back into the document, I can review the processing messages. And you'll see that the purchase requisition was successfully created for the inventory item. And the purchase requisition is the pre-commitment to purchase the item in the system. So then the next step would be to create the purchase order, which is the commitment to purchase the item. So go back to my applications and go to purchase order and create purchase order. So I'll create the purchase order based on the purchase requisition that was just created. I'll select the company where this purchase belongs, the vendor that I'm purchasing from, to be assigned on the purchase order. Then I'll go down to purchase order items and select the add button. I'll select the purchase requisition dropdown to select the purchase requisition that was just created. Go to the last record, and I'll select the purchase requisition for the fertilizer gel. And you'll see that the details from the purchase requisition will automatically be appear on the purchase order item. I'll select the department where this purchase cost will belong to. In this case, the operations grow department. The facility where the material is being stored, and then the storage location within the facility where this material is being stored. So in this case, it is going to belong into the supplies room. I'll select OK to add the purchase order items to the table. When I'm done, I'll select the Send button. In this case, the purchase order is not under workflow management, so it did not go to an approver and just was submitted into the system. And I'll go, if I review the processing messages, I'll see that the purchase order was successfully created. So I'm going to go back to the ERP Cannabis Launchpad. And you'll see that we have a track purchase order application tile where users that have this tile assigned will be able to review the status of any purchase order in the system that is being created by any user. So if I select the track purchase order app, I'll go down to the purchase order that was just created. You can see that the purchase order details appear with the vendor name and the purchase order number and the material details. If I select the item details, I can review additional information such as the material code, the purchase requisition reference on the purchase order, and the pricing conditions. So you can see that the purchase order only has a status of ordered and does not have a status of delivered or invoiced. So then the next step would be to create the purchase receipt for the purchase order items that have been delivered on site when the vendor delivers the purchase order items. So I'll go back to my applications. I'll go to purchase receipt. And the create purchase receipt screen will appear here. I'll select the company where this purchase order belongs to that is being received, the vendor that delivered the purchase order items that have been received on site, and the purchase order number that has been received. We'll go to the last record. I'll select the purchase order. I can enter who received the purchase order items and also additional header details for the purchase receipt. So I can say that this is delivered at the warehouse front door. So I'll scroll down, and since this is an inventory item that has been received, I'll go to the received items inventory table and select the add button. I'll select the facility where this PO item is being stored, and then the inventory item based on the purchase order that's selected. In this case is for the fertilizer gel, the unit of measure that has been received, the quantity that has been delivered, and if this material was batch managed, I would enter the batch ID here. In this case, this material is not batch managed, and then also the storage location. I can also enter item detailed comments as well. When I'm done, I'll select OK to add it to the table. And when I'm done entering items for the purchase receipt, I'll select the send button. In this case, the purchase receipt was under workflow management, so it went to an approver who was notified to review, and then they'll approve it to submit it into the system. I'll review the processing messages of the document, and it'll say that the material document has been posted successfully, meaning that inventory has been updated for that material record, and also the financial statement for raw materials has been updated as well for inventory. So I'm going to go back into the Launchpad. I'm going to go over our purchase order manager dashboard, which is a dashboard for super user access. In this case, it would be for super users that would maintain purchase orders. So you'll see that we have various transactions and reports that are specific for maintaining purchase orders. So if I go to display purchase order, and I'm at the purchase order that was just processed, and if I wanted to send a purchase order PDF document to a vendor, I would select the print preview button on the purchase order to get a PDF version of the purchase order that I have created, so then I can send it to the vendor to complete the purchase order. So you see on the top right, I can generate the PDF document and either print out this PDF document or generate a PDF to email it to the vendor. So that was a simplified purchasing process in ERPC. And I'm just going to go over the create material record application just to show how material master records, which are the master data for purchasing and inventory, how that is created. So you can see here that there are various fields that need to be entered to create a material master record. So a material ID needs to be entered. The intended use of the material will need to be selected. So either raw material, operating material, semi-finished, or finished material. The primary unit of measure and alternative unit of measure. So if the order unit is different than the primary unit, that would be entered here with the conversion factor. The minimum stock of the material for MRP purposes and delivery time. If the material is batch managed, then I would select this indicator here. I can select where the material will be stored, the current price, and the profit center for financials of the material. So again, this is similar to the purchasing forms. I would select send to send the new material master into the system. And similar to material, the vendor master record is created similarly. So when I create a purchase order for a new vendor, I will need to enter details for the new vendor with this form. So I'm going to go back to our purchase order manager dashboard here, and you can see that we have various reports which has access to the SAP backend system. And if I wanted to review a list of purchase orders that need to be received, I can select the button, and a report will appear with all the purchase order documents that haven't been received in the system. So if I needed to reconcile and review the purchase orders that need to be received in the system for inventory purposes, I would go to this report. I can also generate a spreadsheet as well for this report. Additionally, there's a report for purchase orders by material. So if I needed to review a list of purchase orders for a certain material, I can use this report. You see that for all these materials, underneath there's a list of purchase order documents assigned for this material master record. So now I'm going to go through some inventory management processes and also some inventory specific reports in ERP Cannabis. So again, I'm going to be an MM user, and here's the Launchpad. So this user has access to inventory manager dashboard with SAP backend access as well. So this is the inventory manager super user that maintains inventory. And like I showed for purchase order reports, we also have the inventory specific transactions and reports as well. So I'll select the stock overview report to review the stock of a specific material in the system. So I'll look at the fertilizer gel stock overview, which was the material that we just purchased in the purchasing process. I'll run the report. You'll see that an overview list of the current inventory and reserved inventory of the fertilizer gel material will appear here. So you can see the stock overview is broken down by the company, the plant or facility, and the storage location within the facility where this material is being stored in. It can also break down to the batch level as well within the storage location. And if I wanted to review the material stock in a different unit of measure, right now this is the base U of M, I can change that as well. So going back to our inventory manager dashboard, we'll look at all the materials that are in the system. So I'll select the material list report. You can see a list of all the materials that have been created using the create material form will appear here. You can see that we have a list of various raw materials, semi-finished materials, operating materials, and finished goods. So if I wanted to generate a spreadsheet of this report, I can do that as well. So I can share this report with others. And I can also review the price history of inventory materials. So if I wanted to know what prices I've been working with other vendors and I wanted to compare the prices from previous purchase orders, I can do that here. So you can see all the materials that have been purchased with a purchase order will appear. So if I wanted to look at the fertilizer gel material, and the pricing is stored within the system with info records by vendor. So you can see this info record for this vendor was created for the specific material with the price per unit that I entered on the purchase order, and also the purchase order number that I referenced that I created for the material. So here, ERP Cannabis also has the capability of material requirements planning. You can see I could do an MRP run for all MRP relevant materials, and I could also do an MRP run for just one material. So I'll go into the single item MRP run, and I'll enter the material that I want to do an MRP run for. So I'll select, go with the plant soil raw material, and I want to display the results of the MRP run. So see a list of all of the MRP elements for this material. So you can see that for an order that this material is to be planned for the semi-finished immature sour diesel material. And also the purchase requisitions for this material will appear here with the required quantity and the available quantity and the storage location. You see this material involves a lot of other semi-finished materials and is contained in a lot of purchase requisitions. So if I go back into my inventory manager dashboard and go back into the Launchpad, we're going to go over some inventory specific processes for maintaining inventory. So I'm going to go up to my applications, go to applications, and then my forms, and go to my inventory specific forms. Here, where there's a scenario where there needs to be an inventory issue process, if a material was lost and needs to be submitted into the system, I would use this form to issue inventory for a department or cost center. So select the company and facility where this material belongs. I'll select the department that I'm assigning this for costing. In this case, the operations grow department. And the storage location where this material belongs to. In this case, we have some material that was lost in truck number 1. I'm going to enter the inventory items that I'm going to issue out of inventory. I'm going to select my, I'm going to enter my search criteria for this semi-finished harvest sour diesel material that I'm issuing out of inventory. Since this material is batch managed, I'm going to select the batch ID for this material, which will appear on the drop-down. You see I have multiple batches assigned for this material, so I'll select the batch that I know needs to be issued out. And then the quantity that I'm issuing out of inventory in the unit of measure. In this case, it's kilograms. And here I can enter comments for the reasoning why I'm issuing this inventory. So I can say that we lost 1 kilo of the harvest sour diesel from the truck. when it was out for delivery. So I'll select OK when I'm done entering the item details, where it'll be added to the table. When I'm done entering the items to issue inventory, I'll select the Send button to submit it into the system. And I'll review the processing messages of the inventory issue, and you'll see that the goods issue was successfully posted, meaning that inventory was updated for issuing out this inventory material for the quantity and unit of measure. So the next step, we're going to enter the inventory count. Next up, I'm going to enter the physical inventory count when, based on your business processes, whether it's monthly or weekly, that you need to do an inventory count of all your materials, of your raw materials or semi-finished materials or finished goods. I would use this form to enter the inventory count to post the differences in the system. So I'll select the facility where I'm doing the inventory count, the inventory items. So I'll select material that I'm doing an inventory count for. I can do multiple materials at a time for doing a count. In this case, the coconut material, and if this material was batch managed, the batches would appear here. I'll enter the quantity that I'm doing a count for and the unit of measure. So this is the physical inventory that's currently in the facility and the storage location of this material. So as I said, I can enter multiple materials, so I'm going to do that here for the physical inventory count. So again, I'll do a search for the material that I'm doing a count for, and I'll select the batch. If this material is batch managed, which it is, so I'll select the batch that I'm doing the count for. To enter the physical inventory quantity that is currently being stored and the unit of measure. And this also belongs into the supplies room, so I'll select that. And I'll just do one more material just to show another material example for the physical inventory count. Like the batch of this material. And the physical quantity of this material and the unit of measure. So now I've entered my materials that I'm entering the physical inventory count for. When I'm done, I'll select the Send button, submit it into the system, and I'll review the processing messages of the physical inventory document. It'll say that the physical inventory document has been successfully created into the system. The next step would be to enter the physical inventory document and post the inventory differences. So if there was differences in inventory, then when I post the inventory count, the inventory will be updated into the system and will also be posted and updated for financials for inventory. So now another example is to post an inventory transfer. So if I have material that is currently stored in the supplies room but needs to be moved into the product room, then I would use this application for that. So I'll select the company, I'll select the facility, select the storage location that the material is currently being stored, so the from location, and then the to is the storage location where I want to transfer the material to. And I can enter header details here for the inventory transfer. So say I'm going to transfer a lollipop material to the product room so that they can be sold. So I'll select the material that I'm transferring. I'll select the material drop-down. And I'll enter the material ID, or I'll select it here if it appears here. So in this example, I'm going to select the lollipop material for finished goods, and then I'm select the batch that I'm also transferring. And I'll enter the quantity that I'm transferring in the unit of measure. When I'm done entering the material details, I'll select OK. Then I'll select Send to submit the inventory transfer in the system. And I'll review the processing messages. And the material document was successfully posted. So again, the material document posting means that inventory was updated, and if any evaluation was changed for the material, that would update financials as well. So I'm going to go back to the Inventory Manager dashboard and just go over a couple more reports to just show how after you do an inventory transfer or a physical inventory process that you can review the reports that are available and to see the changes that have been made in the system. So if I want to look at the inventory history of a material that I did, and I want to review the previous postings or changes that I've made for the material, I'll select that. I'll select the material that I want to review the material documents of. In this case, the fertilizer gel material that was purchased and received into inventory. I'll run the report. And you'll see that the list of goods movements that have occurred for this material will appear. The green meaning inventory has been increased, the red meaning that inventory has decreased. You can see that the storage location, the movement type, and the material document and the posting date of the material goods movements will appear here. And if I wanted to review the details of a goods movement document, I'll click the document number. I'll double click it. And the material document will appear for display, or I can review the details of the goods movement. So you can see I can review the account assignment of the goods movement and the storage location and the quantity and unit of entry. Another report that we can go over is the warehouse stock report, where I want to review the current warehouse stock per facility and storage location of a specific material or range of materials. So if I wanted to review the current stock of all materials in a certain storage location, I would use this report. So here I just want to review the materials that I just did a physical inventory count of to review the current inventory of these materials. So you see that I have the total value and the total unrestricted quantity of these materials. I can see which storage location they're assigned to. And if I had them in transit or if I had them in quality inspection, then that would appear here as well. So I'm going to go back to our Launchpad. And if I wasn't a super user, users would still be able to review inventory and purchasing specific reports, we have developed some standard reports for the system for any user to have access to, which also can be customized as well. And if I wanted to review the supplies inventory report, I would select that from my Launchpad. I wanted to review the current inventory of supplies materials. I get the report here. I can select additional records for all the materials, and you'll see that the material ID, description, the material category, the facility and location where the material is being stored, with the quantity available, and the material price per unit. So another standard report we have is the material batch report, which is the available quantity of a material by batch number. So you can see I have my material master record numbers and the corresponding batch ID with the current quantity available and the value of the material by batch ID. And another report is the process order report, where I can review a list of process orders for producing materials, so products that will will turn into inventory after production. I can review the report for that as well. So I can see all the various process order numbers that are being created for the corresponding materials and the process order quantity that is going to be produced of that material. I can see the date that this process order will be created. And all of these reports can be exported into an Excel document or a PDF document so that these can be shared with others as well. So that is the end of the demo for purchasing and inventory management, and I will now hand this back to Joel.
Thank you, Ben. Very good. So Jake, if we can just show our Q&A slide. And if anyone does have a question, please submit your question in the lower right-hand corner of the WebEx screen. But as you can see, let's see, good. On the screen, we do have my contact information again. So please feel free to contact me directly if you have any questions about ERP Cannabis, would like to schedule a meeting time to talk more in depth about the capabilities and functionality of ERP Cannabis, or set up a time for a demo with you or a group of people from your company where we can focus the demo on particular functionality that may be of interest to you or high priority. We are certainly willing to do that at any time. Also, we do have the ERP Cannabis website where you can find additional information, as well as a link to our YouTube channel where you can view additional demo videos, as well as our previous webinars that we've had. So this webinar will also be posted out there as we have recorded it. So it will be made available and can be shared with others or reviewed more intentionally by yourself. So again, thank you for attending our webinar series, and have a great afternoon. Thank you.